Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, you're watching the South African Morning Sunday edition, and it's time to take a look at the economic week ahead with a market analyst and Rand Swiss portfolio manager, Viv Govender. Many thanks for your time this morning, Viv. A lot of company updates that are set to be out this week. Some important ones to note. We'll start with Anglo American, which will be publishing their production numbers in the coming week. Obviously, our mining firms have had quite a good run in 2021. What are we likely to expect in this particular update?
We are seeing trends of moderating growth in production, sometimes slightly weaker production growth than we had been seeing before. We are also seeing an increase in cost coming through as well, but this should be supported overall by reasonably strong commodity prices. When it comes to commodity stocks, my general rule of thumb is that most of them are run very efficiently. So you're not going to find many mining companies that are not run with a reasonable level of efficiency. And what really determines whether or not they are profitable or not is the price of their commodities, which they have very little control over. Other than the OPEC countries, commodity producers out there are basically price takers. They just take whatever the price the market is. And if the price goes up like it did in the last year or so, they do really well. And if the price goes down, even though everything else that they do is, pretty much the same, they don't do as well. So, prices being reasonably high is what's key to their, profitability.
Right. I think market participants will also be looking closely at what's likely to come out of Steinhoff's full year 2021 results that are set to come out. I mean, we did see in the third quarter of the last year, they did see an improvement in operations. And just broadly, Viv, things seem to be settling down within that stable. Some decisions around bad buys, which were made in the past, are being reversed. I mean, your analysis of Steinhoff and what we're set to be seeing, despite the fact that we actually haven't seen any heads roll in the likes of Marcus Jooste after that huge scandal broke.
Yeah, which is surprising. I mean, with the kind of political, will, I would have thought behind it, you would have assumed that there'd be some kind of push to get, arrests made, and it would be very popular politically to see people that did such things, especially with profit in the past, who are quite wealthy and so on, have very little excuse for why they would do such a thing. Not face justice, but like you said, nobody has been arrested so far. Nobody has been, there's no cameras of people being arrested, etc., etc. So yeah, look, I mean, when it comes to the actual company, it's an interesting case. What you have to understand when it comes to a large company like Steinhoff, any listed company for the matter, that is of a significant size, it's literally impossible for you to understand what's happening in the company unless you can trust the books, unless you can trust what's appearing in those books, the balance sheet, the current account, and so on. You have no idea what's going to be the actual state of that particular company. And Steinhoff's books were basically untrustworthy. What's happened since the scandal broke is that they've kind of got in. We kind of get a clear idea what the valuation of the company is. Obviously, it was significantly lower than what it was before the scandal broke. But there are still some valuable aspects to the company. Even though things may be overvalued, they still have a value. And what the market now is seeing is that the management is trying to basically get the company back on a new footing, trying to clear the way to some of the uncertainty about what's happening with the valuations. And that's going to be, I think, leave you probably with a company that is worth something, which was, not quite as certain a few years ago.
No, absolutely. Viv, we've also got MPC coming up soon, and it's widely expected that the Monetary Policy Committee will be increasing rates. It was indicated by the Reserve Bank Governor in his last address to us in the fourth quarter of last year. But your analysis of this current situation, I mean, we are seeing inflation at quite high levels, food inflation there as well, and also just the price of fuel having an impact of the levels that we're seeing. And that, of course, does determine the direction in which the SARB will be taking.
Yeah, look, I mean, beyond just the more volatile aspects, like you said, food and oil, there seems to be underlying inflation. And we're seeing that especially in places like the US. And of course, if the US starts raising rates, we in South Africa are probably going to have to follow. Otherwise, we'll face a weaker currency because of the differential in interest rates, which will cause inflation anyway. If we don't kind of follow the global trends, we will basically be facing a weaker currency, and therefore, because we import so much stuff, that will translate into higher inflation. at the moment, I probably think that, central banks, ours internationally, have no idea what the inflation, outlook actually is. They've gotten it very wrong in the last year, and I'm not certain that they know what's happening right now. The biggest question in the global market, I think, for 2022 and 2023 is probably going to be what's actually happening with inflation. If central banks get this wrong, if they don't understand what's actually happening with inflation, if they start raising, interest rates into an environment in which inflation really isn't a problem because it was transitory, like was the main belief last year, what you actually are going to see is possibly recessions caused by this higher interest rates. You've seen actually, for instance, the U.S. Fed's changing its policy stance a number of times. In fact, they actually released a statement a few weeks ago in which they pretty much said, our last policy statement gave you the wrong impression. We are going to do something different from what we actually indicated we were going to do in the last statement. That was pretty much the synopsis of what they talked about. And they still have no idea as to whether or not what they are seeing with regards to inflation is going to be something that they're going to overreact to or not. And this is, like I said, a key determinant of what the outlook looks for the global economy in the next couple of years.
No, absolutely. Market analyst and portfolio manager at Rand Swiss, Viv Govender, joining us to give us a sense of what's coming up this week on the companies front and, of course, broadly the economic side. And that includes the inflation outlook as well as the likely direction that the SARB will be taking.